Patrick, it's good to see you.
Ahoy. Good to see you too.
Here we are. So, in today's episode, we are going to dive into a few things. On Tuesday, not only, well, I turned this into a bit more of a bigger kind of thing, but on Tuesday, we sorry, someone's wrong. On Tuesday, we celebrated our Bricks and Bytes' fourth birthday, which was, I suppose, has gone very quick. So we released the very first ever, first ever Bricks and Bytes podcast on the 21st of April, 2022.
You grow up so quickly. Soon you go to college.
We're still learning this shit. Me and Martin are not big on this stuff, and so I texted Martin on the day and almost discovered that coincidentally it was the day that we are holding our first in-person event, and told him that he should go and get a birthday cake for the guests, and so he did, and he went and got a birthday cake, and he showed up to the event with this big bag of cake which we put on the table for people. But it got me thinking, actually. So yeah, that's some nice news. But it got me thinking about what we should do for our fifth birthday, because that's a bit more of a round number, and I feel like we're at the time now, Martin, and the maturity where we should do something relatively big.
What's the definition of big?
You're only limited in your own ambitions, Martin.
True. That's true.
So anything you want. We should spend the next year deciding on this every week, and then do a big announcement.
Let's jump out of a plane and hold the Bricks and Bytes flag and just keep falling.
Whatever happened to your idea to throw robots off a skyscraper and film it with a high-speed camera?
That was Owen's. I'm sure.
Say that again. What was the what?
So what happened to your idea throwing robots off the roof of skyscrapers and filming it with high-speed cameras?
We need.
He remembers it, so it must be.
I would totally watch that. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, that's a PR stunt if there ever was one.
Yeah, we need someone who would actually put their foot forward and do this with us, and maybe we need the backing of someone like BBC or Channel 4 or something like that to fund it. We can call not Top Gear, something to do more with robotics, but it's a someday maybe.
That would be a hell of a birthday present.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, in Canary Wharf, probably there's still few buildings being.
Watch out! You might hit an investment banker.
Hopefully not the one that would have invested in us at that time. So, okay, let's keep ideating. We will go through this. I think we have a few options where we could take this. The other one is actually no, I won't reveal too much because we should probably nail the concept a little bit more before we speak about it. But there was a few people on Tuesday night that had some interesting ideas about where we could take a few things. So with that, I will share with people on here our takeaways, the key takeaways from the Martin Fisher event, and also my thinking around the takeaways that he gave. Also, we have not caught up since, I think, maybe early last week, HCSS announced the Nemetschek announced the acquisition of HCSS. So we're going to do a little bit of a dive into that. Also, we will be speaking to Eve and Usman. Eve is the CEO of Nemetschek, and Usman is the CEO of Nemetschek in their construction division. So we will find out some more there.
Amazing.
Patrick, you've done a quick analysis on the Q1 2026 funding. We'll go through the headlines. And then we have some more like bigger subjects, glideways. I don't know if people have heard about this, but I just discovered it last week. I thought it opens people's imaginations up to the world of what could be done in the future of cities. And Blue Energy have got a novel way of constructing and transporting nuclear power plants to the places that they end up. Then we have Artem from Kawazo and Amar from Mesh Robotics. So that will be the run for today. Shall I give you the yes? Shall I give you the takeaways from the Martin Fisher event then? And I think I can give you like a really top level headline takeaway, and then I will dive a little bit deeper into those. So the headline takeaway is that AI is here, but current use case is extremely limited despite all the hype in construction. And if he had $100 to invest in to invest, if he was in a company that had $100 to invest to involve himself in artificial intelligence within his company, he would spend $20 on looking at the current capabilities of what AI is and what it can do, large language models that exist and some of the tools, etc. But he would spend $80 on rethinking processes, rebuilding the organization around generating the data and the infrastructure in order that you can layer AI on top and actually get some good commercial use case out of it.
Yeah, I took a note of that one as well.
I mean, it matters, right? Because Martin Fisher, I mean, in many circles in the West, you would say, hey, you know, Mr. Bim. So if Mr. Bim thinks this, I think we should listen.
100%. I was also going to say something similar, that obviously you hear a lot of people giving their opinions on artificial intelligence, but when it comes from Martin, then you listen.
I mean, I have great sympathy for that, because I think what we're finding out is what I have been convinced in for the longest time, and that is, if you have structured data, it's much easier to deploy AI, definitely much easier to deploy agents. So the ontologies, the data schemas, the way you structure your databases, etc., the way you expose them through structured interfaces is such a great definer of how much you can truly do with AI super, super quickly. And BIM, you know, Martin's like entire, I want to say entire career, but it is something that was always the number one thing perhaps that was important to him. That's how you structure data, that is schemas, etc. Now, has BIM fulfilled its promise? We can have all sorts of arguments about all of that, but ultimately it was also about data structuring. And so I like that context in the context as a context for AI.
Yeah, what I also found fascinating about what he was saying was that be patient with me on this, because I don't fully understand the concept, but I think like some people obviously did at the event. But what he was saying is even a lot of the data that exists within the industry right now, which people are building artificial intelligence on top of, was arrived at through constrained methods. So what I was trying to depict from his argument is that the data that already exists doesn't always give the full picture actually of like what happened on a construction project. So in some ways, like that could constrain the benefit that you get out of it if you're training your AI on that data. So back to my earlier point is that if you build the processes to get the right data, then the AI becomes useful.
Yeah, so he was talking about building digital feedback loops, and that's what we should be focusing on based on what he thinks, which is, for example, he gave an example of a detail. Okay, if the engineers or architects design a detail, then how do they find if this detail was successful? Was it possible to construct it? And is it a good detail? How do we know that the detail is a good detail if we don't verify it? Yeah. So post-construction, for example, something interesting to think about, because I've never come across. There's so many problems day to day in the design space, for example, just because someone thinks that what they've done is correct, but it's never been verified. People usually see the finished product. If it's a house or if it's a hospital, people see a finished product. I don't think we are putting much attention to the ins and outs of how these
the detail.
The detail, how they've been constructed, where was the design successful, and where was it wasn't successful, etc. So, but I don't know how was the answer to that. How can this be fixed, and how can we create this digital feedback loops like he mentioned? thought-provoking, but I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think what was super interesting for me is that people have actually been saying what he's saying for not exactly as he's been saying, but a similar sentiment in that sort your data out for such a long, like 5, 6, 7 years now. Yet no one's really listened or done it. But now they see the benefit of what AI can do in their personal, consumer, and like a large language model wise. They're now all thinking, "Holy crap, we better do something." So there is no magic pill. Like sort your data out, and you'll benefit from artificially intelligent revolution. And to your point, Martin, I also just had a discussion with Jit Key from Suffolk Construction and what they have been building. And we will release this next week, probably on Bricks and Bytes. What they have been building is kind of exactly what you described. So their unlock is with the data is literally the detail in the data, like the detail in the design. And how they can then use this moving forward. So they are in some ways already building these digital feedback loops, and they have been doing this for a number of years already. So it did make me think, and I put the question to her about whether how far do they know how far they are advanced compared to the rest of the industry. Obviously, it's hard to tell, but I feel like that they were doing something that I had not heard from other contractors in the industry before.
Well, I'm sure. Well, I can bet that, for example, Goldbeck has done something like that because of the way their business is constructed, which is on kind of 100% predictable details and does things work or not. They probably mastered this this part of having a digital feedback loop. But contractors who that don't work on the same type of construction, or if they don't do fabrication, then I don't think that I also haven't heard about those applying these feedback loops.
You had anything, Patrick?
I think you have to wait for. Sorry, is this going to be an episode with Martin, or was it literally just the event?
We did record it, yeah. So I have not yet decided how and in which format we will release it, but something will go out.
I want to dive in first before I judge. I want to dive in first.
Fair
so let's hear it.
Why are you so risk?
Oh, it's the new me. It's rebirth and everything.
Fair enough. Okay, so that was that. Fascinating. Plenty more to come from us on the events front. Moving on, shall we speak about HCSS and Nemetschek? I believe you have been busy, and you spent your whole evening last night and the day before preparing this presentation for us, right, Patrick?
Whole week. And the fact that it uses Claude colors is purely coincidental, just because Claude and I like the same colors.
Yeah, I think you've done it before. Claude Design was announced last Friday, actually.
Also, yes, you're absolutely right. I will not deny this. Yep. So let's look into it, because I think the HCSS acquisition from Nemetschek is an absolutely remarkable acquisition. In fact, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was an episode when I said to you guys and to Dustin, maybe the biggest regret that Procore should have of any acquisition they had never done was HCSS. I don't know if they had a chance, or maybe they did have conversations and they couldn't come to a price. But I cannot judge all of that. But just from if you wanted to dominate also the infrastructure segment, this is the behemoth that you wanted to acquire. And little history. So Thoma Bravo had acquired HCSS years ago. Right before that, they had acquired another company, actually out of Alabama, called Command Alcon, which is an oligopolist, or let's say leading market solution to help concrete plants manage their operations, connect with customers. Originally started with batch computers for that. And so Thoma had the portfolio of both the customer-facing bidding and project management suite, as well as the building materials side of, hey, this is our customers delivering into our customers. So pretty cool. But now HCSS was actually exited by Thoma Bravo to Nemetschek, and I thought that was super interesting, because Nemetschek, very strong in the US, very strong in their core segments, and infrastructure is something that from the outside you would say, hey, they have potential in infrastructure, and it seems like they really made a big step here in fulfilling onto that potential. So if you look at HCSS and a few numbers
look at
here.
the screen, by the way, people who are listening.
Yeah,
this is the presentation. I
this
can see on your screen one thing quickly, Patrick, I want to ask is in the top right hand corner it says Sugarland, Texas. So when I was researching this topic previously, is this a real place? Because it kept coming up in the articles. I was like, I
mean,
thought
I
that something like
but
it made up. Yeah.
No, I've come across this before. So I would say yes. We probably have to call Clifton at TestFit to confirm. You know, as a true yeehaw Texan, he would know right away.
Yeah, I should have asked him yesterday. It's probably inspiration for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Probably, yes. Yep, I'm sure you're right. But I mean, it's interesting, right? This is not Silicon Valley, yeah? And Command Alcon, the other one that Thoma Bravo had acquired years ago, Alabama, also not Silicon Valley. So interesting how this company landed in Nemetschek's portfolio. Just headline numbers. So we know from the press release, all of this, by the way, is purely built on public information, all of it. Revenue 2025, 215 million. The growth 20% was being shown. So probably Nemetschek has a more aggressive growth case than that. It's my outside-in guess. So maybe they hope to be at 300 million ARR very soon. EBITDA margin 40%. Churn, I mean, really, really good, I would say, especially when you're dealing with a huge chunk of SMB customers. This is an exceptionally good churn. 4,000 customers, what they say, with 550 employees. So I would say that's, I mean, an exceptional ARR to FTE multiple. If you take just the revenue instead of the ARR, it's 390,000 revenue per employee. That's like very good. That's best, you know, really best in class for a traditional software as a service company. And we know from the press release also that they paid 20x forward EBITDA. The company itself, as you see at the bottom left, is absolutely not a new company. It was built 40 years ago. And then when it was exited 5 years ago, the owner and CEO had been at the helm 35 years of the business. So this is truly like incumbent, established technology. Really cool. And with all of that history, they have built out a very strong market position in the infrastructure, civil, highway, etc. segment in the US. So what we also know from public numbers is that HCSS, so they have a suite of products, as I mentioned earlier. And for example, the customers that are on heavy bid have a win rate allegedly of 75% on the DOT bids that they make, so Departments of Transportation bids. They claim that they are able to produce 40% more bids than the same customer with another system can do. And then they also claim that actually 95% of their projects close on or under budget. Certainly something that the DOTs like to hear.
That is a claim.
But that's the flywheel, right? I mean, we had this, I think, in a different context once before. But if you sort of, if you nick yourself into the DOTs and then you are owning the contractors, and then you can prove that actually, hey, our projects are on or under budget almost all of the time, that flywheel is very hard to break because both sides want to keep working with you. So that's pretty cool. I think that's part of the reason why the churn is actually so limited. So we can have a little bit of fun with this. Last slide here. So Claude came up with a very newspaper headline. Let me just read it out loud. Europe buys America's infrastructure software layer. So in this case, infrastructure means the construction of infrastructure segment. Pretty nice. I hope a journalist picks it up. But I wanted to back off the envelope. What was actually going on in the deal? Again, purely built on public information. I have no information from any of the parties that, and I haven't used any. All of this is public information. So we know 2.4 billion was the headline announced price. We knew the multiple. We also knew, however, that there was a non-cash portion involved. We know that because Thoma Bravo received a 28% stake in a subdivision of Nemetschek, and that is the subdivision called Build or Construct, that HCSS moves into, a 28% stake in that. So let me actually tell you what that means. So Nemetschek is a 7.5 billion market cap company as of today. The Construct/Build division makes up 40% of their revenue. So what Thoma Bravo received was a 28% of the 48% of the 40% of Nemetschek. Means roughly, give or take, just using outside-in numbers, an 11% stake in Nemetschek overall. It's not how it works, but from a valuation perspective, we can sort of simplify it that way. 11% of Nemetschek's, right? So that is basically 800 roundabout, give or take, million of share value that Thoma Bravo received. So we know they paid 2.4 enterprise value. We know that the company had 450 million in debt. HCSS did. That's also public. So the equity value was actually 195. And we know that there was an 800 million-ish, actually that was euros, so it's probably more like 900 million-ish, share value that Thoma Bravo received, which means that probably the real cash layout that you see here, maybe we're in the right ballpark. That was about 1 billion. So it could be that Nemetschek might have paid 1 billion in cash to Thoma Bravo, so that the actual cash outlay, if you then refinance the debt, was somewhere around the 1.4 to 1.5. This is what we can estimate outside in. It's not going to be correct, but gives us a ballpark direction. So huge deal, not necessarily the 2.4 headline, but still a huge deal. And according to all public records that we have, also the biggest deal in Nemetschek history. So very ambitious, and in my opinion, great strategic synergy. I really love this deal.
Mine, you want to go first?
No,
all I was going to say.
I was wondering is HCSS. I looking up like what do they do and who the competitors are. One of the competitors Autodesk Construction Cloud, and Procore, for example. Yeah, I don't. For the last 4 years, maybe like getting involved a little bit in construction technology, I don't think I've ever heard a word named HCSS. I only heard.
I'm glad you admitted this, Martin, because like
Procore.
it wasn't till 2 months ago I was in the same boat.
So.
And by the way, I've reached out to maybe 6 people at HCSS in the past, and no one's ever responded to me. So maybe they just don't like us.
I mean, I would say they don't need PR, man. It's just too good of a business that is so deeply entrenched in their really huge niche. It's a cool business.
I like this attitude.
Yeah, fine. I think it's a strong. So Nemetschek must have been super convicted that this was the way to go based on these numbers. They must have had strong conviction.
But also
to take to go into this heavy civils industry in the US. Maybe like to Patrick's point earlier, maybe there'll be some other companies that are kicking themselves of thinking of why they didn't think about doing something like this sooner as well. So
maybe they want to compete more on the with giants like Autodesk, Trimble, Procore. Probably, sure. I think they didn't have a project management software, so now they have.
So they do, but this one is specific for infrastructure. This is like the 500-pound gorilla. If you wanna close that gap in infra, this is the one that you wanted to buy.
So you would say that in general that is a big acquisition, yeah?
I would say it's a yeah.
How do you compare the size of acquire and acquiree? That's how you call them.
I mean, Nemetschek 7.5 billion market cap as of today. It's bold, but it's not like it would bring you down, especially because this one is a super stable and predictable business. Yeah. So look, I mean, AI left, right, up, down, say how much you want, but this is a real system of record and a real operating system for their customers. And not just that, also for the DOTs. So you're really in this very strong flywheel where it will be difficult to rip you out. On the other side, it might be really cool to add AI on top of that.
And plus, this is infrastructure is a growing sector as well. Yeah, like strong demand will continue to do so. So by all accounts, yeah, wise, strong deal. We should do a vote on like good or bad. I think generally good.
I would go, I would go long on this deal. Yep.
What do you guys think about, in the light of this deal, for example, very big, and is it a good move in the era of AI and artificial intelligence and all of that? Should the companies with large P&Ls be buying companies like that, or should they be reinvesting in their own resources or trying to create it from scratch inside? Obviously, they don't have distribution in this particular area. Yeah, that's why maybe distribution. But how do you guys think about, because it should be easier now to build things, yeah? If you are a software provider right now.
Yeah, well, like to some of the discussion that we've been having on Bricks and Bytes recently, like you can't vibe code this, you can't vibe code that. Like you can't vibe code what Patrick said, the becoming the 500-pound gorilla in a specific industry.
So, yeah, but I meant it's a software company, so they know how to. They don't have to vibe code. They're a software company which acquires another software.
Yeah, but what I mean is like for them to go and build their own software to then compete with someone like HCSS, when HCSS is a complete dominant player in that area, have some of the stats that Patrick was going through with retention under budget and winning bids, and the flywheel that creates. I don't think you're going to be able to replicate something like that, and especially not going to be able to vibe code it.
Yeah. I guess what I don't know is they must have been very convinced that they can take such a big asset and then still fit it within the current framework where they are and where the industry is going when the technology is going. I actually admire it because it's a bold move for I don't know if it's better to stand still and wait or act but acting. Yeah.
So look, I mean, the way you just phrase it, I think it's very obvious answer. Don't stand still, take decisions, act, move forward. But I think the decision then make or buy, right? So develop in-house or acquire, both are decisions. So you're not standing still by taking either. Personally, it's hard to say without knowing the exact culture and resources, organization of any of these acquirers. But I think we can pass observations of how the whole industry has developed. It's very obvious to all of us. Historically, all of these like top 5, 6 software consolidators in the AEC space have grown through acquisition. Sort of that is the muscle that they are trained to use. And that's also a skill. That's also a capability, by the way. The first acquisition you do rarely goes well. The 100th goes much smoother. So there is a capability and a muscle in doing exactly that. So, either way, I think they took a decision. And I like this one.
Do you want to know of an acquisition which was, well, on paper 13 and 8.5 times bigger than this one in recent times?
I do. Okay.
QXO, yeah, going after the building materials market. We spoke about Brad Jacobs on here like a few.
Wait, what? Okay.
A year or so ago. Yeah, they acquired a Top Build, $17 billion.
Yeah, that's exactly what he raised the money for. Yep. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
That guy is crazy. People who have not studied Brad Jacobs before, then I would highly recommend going to do some studying on that guy.
Yep.
I think he's like one of the only people in the world to have bought companies to like at least 7 companies or something to over $1 billion valuation.
Yep. Yeah, cool.
All in construction?
No, not all in construction. I think he had
Machine
United
rental,
Rentals, right?
Waste
Logistics.
management. Yep.
Yeah.
Brad Jacobs, Canadian curler.
Yeah, he has some weird he has this book, which I really don't think the title of the book does him justice, but whatever. He commands the right to be able to write what the hell he wants. But his book is called something like How to Make a Few $1 billion. And this is the title of a book I would expect to get halfway through watching a YouTube video and someone's trying to advertise it to me. But anyway, but he does this crazy meditation and stuff about really thinking big. One of them involves shutting your eyes and zooming out of the universe and outside of the world and really esoteric kind of stuff. Yeah,
I think it's projecting things in your head.
And there's another one where you really focus on your hands or something and the energy. You'd have to. They're all listed in the book, and it's something to try. If you're struggling for success in life, guys, go and do some of these meditations. Maybe that's my problem. Okay, thanks for the insight, Patrick. That was a great presentation.
Yeah.
Did you use all your credits preparing that one?
Well, what do you mean credits? This was me.
Social credits.
Yeah, I found this amazing intern. Yep.
I spent some time over the weekend and playing with Claude Design. If it's called Claude Design, right? I can't remember.
I don't know. I've never used it. I don't know.
I haven't used it for a few days, and I will get to the reason as to why. It is called Claude Design, yes. And I thought I was being really smart, so I thought that I would take some of our podcast content and try and create some graphical representations of what people were saying, because it's a nice way for people to consume some stuff, especially complex things that people say. And so I spent maybe few hours on Saturday, putting together a good little process for the team so they can take content and put it into a nice way and making sure it's idiot proof. And then after doing 10 of these, I get a message from Claude you've used all your credits. Your next thing will be available at 5:05 on Saturday. And I was like, okay, that's cool. It's 12 o'clock. It's 12 p.m. So I'll wait till 5 o'clock. And it'll all be reset, and then the team from Monday can start using it. Anyway, turns out it's Saturday the following week at 5:05 a.m. that my Claude credits were going to reset. So these mothers are just trying to make me upgrade to now. I'm already on the $100 per month plan, so now I was so tempted to go to the $200 per month plan, but I'm not going to do it.
Oh, wow! So just for me to understand, so the credit equals what does it equal? What's the physical representation of it? Is it energy or is it something else? What is it that you're buying?
I don't know. Let's see, Patrick, do you have any idea?
A secret formula.
Is it compute kind of what's that?
No, it's a combination of how many roughly snippets of words you can squeeze into a single prompt, and then how many of those, and then it also depends a little bit on what kind of prompt you have. So, for example, a design prompt. But ultimately, it is a formula that is hidden to the user. And I think it's also, quite honestly, I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on this part of it, but I have a feeling it's also not forecastable. So as in, it actually has to go create its research plan, then do the research, etc., 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 which means that it's impossible to show a user, hey, this prompt will cost you that much, because it's iterative by design.
No, I understand that, but what is behind this? Is it amount of energy that something has to consume to get to this to the answer? Because this can be very easy.
I think what Patrick said, it's a secret formula.
Yeah, so I don't like that. It's you can be so manipulated that why did you spend $500 of a credit? Who said it's 100? Yeah.
Well, exactly. But you like the product, so you got to pay. It's a way of tying you in.
Yeah, I need to find out what's going on with this.
You can ask the AI.
Yeah.
And he'll say, "I've used too many credits to give you the answer. Are you sure?"
Do you get value for this credit then?
Well, maybe in a few years you'll be able to sell it for fiat. Yes.
Huh.
So yeah, that was my great. I think some people are experiencing similar things. Yeah, but what it signaled to me is that as you become, I don't want to use the word more reliant, but if you become too reliant on these tools, then they will just lock you in at some point, and it will force you to continue to upgrade to facilitate your lifestyle. So it did give me a little bit of a weird vibe when I got locked out of my credits for testing the thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know many people who experiment with this, but only when I listen to This Week in Startups, yeah, Jason Kawakami, that they spent. At that time when I listened to it, they spent like $300 a day for an agent. Yeah, so equivalent of a daily rate for someone to do stuff, right? So it's like where's the balance?
Yeah. And what is it actually doing?
What is
Is
actually
it
doing?
useful? Is it providing ROI? I'd be skeptical myself. Okay, shall we move on to? I found this fun little thing that just before I'd never heard of this before, but it's a future mode of transport in cities, and it's called glideways. The headline actually came up when I was doing some research for this, and the headline is that they raised $170 million Series C. They're backed by Suzuki Motor Corporation, and they're backed by Spanish construction conglomerate Grupo ACS. Who do they own? Some trivia for you.
Hochtief. And in
Yes.
turn, they own Turner.
Exactly. And who is the is it chairman or CEO of Grupo ACS?
Isn't that the Real Madrid owner?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiorentino Perez, which is weird. Like it's such a weird thing that the owner of Real Madrid Football Club has such deep ties into the construction industry.
Oh, don't go down that rabbit hole from the 90s and early 2000s. You will find very inspiring stories what you can use construction for when you own a football club.
Wow. Okay, one for the weekend. But anyway, so it's backed by these companies as we just mentioned. What they develop are these systems of autonomous glide cars, and apparently it can reduce infrastructure costs by up to 90% compared to traditional rail. So I suppose it's a competitor to rail. It can move 10,000 people per hour per lane. And it's got pilots launching this year in New York City, Atlanta, and the UAE. So effectively, kind of like a train that runs on the road. I've got a video here, which maybe people will find useful to visualize what it is.
Curious.
I don't know. It's just like robots driving people. Why cannot this be cars? Like you have to rebuild the infrastructure, road infrastructure to just allow these glideways to move. Why can this not be existing infrastructure and cars, which are now being trained with intelligence to just robot taxis and whatever? I don't know. Skeptical.
Huh.
It's quite cool though.
Or is it only for like small applications around buildings to like large conference areas to let people get transported from one place to another? Oh, so that's different. That's like a toy kind of solution.
But okay. Look, I don't. Okay, there's a lot of thoughts I have on concepts like this, but can someone explain to me why this is better than, for example, streetcars?
I mean, you have to. Yeah, you would have to rebuild so much infrastructure for it to work. I guess that's the main problem. I think so.
With streetcars?
No, with applying this glideways.
Yeah, I mean, this to me is a streetcar without the rails, and instead a lot more other infrastructure that I have to build for the pleasure of, okay, I can make it on demand and my own cabin. I have to say, good luck selling this into cities that are already being built, already established, and not currently being built.
Yeah.
Tough sell. Tough sell.
I think airports or like large parking lots or like what's the name of this large venues, probably that would work. Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
not cities.
There you go. The concept of horizontal autonomy is an interesting one, though, and this kind of builds on that thesis. Obviously, with the likes of Waymo and them now expanding across into European cities and London as well. And whether this is like a supplement to that or just too far away to be on a comparable factor to Waymo, I don't know.
But even on the About Us page, there is a first like a CGI. If you guys want to take a look, on the left-hand side top, you have glidways, and there is a division, and there's normal road, right? So I don't think this is to exchange the current transportation system, but it's just to supply some larger venues with like a local transportation means to allow for smoother transport of people.
No, I don't know. I guess they're piloting to see what works.
Yeah. I mean, also you can ask. I mean, okay. Here's a test question, right? So if you're proposing something this ambitious, the test question you need to ask yourself is: does civilization need this? Look at a new form of urban mobility that looks to me like a streetcar just on 4 wheels, but needs more infrastructure. I will have to think more about how I would answer the question: does civilization need this?
Yeah, like need is a strong would be a strong word. Yeah, like it's cool.
I think it's a great way to transport people from A to B. I don't know, what's the biggest venue you guys been to?
Biggest venue?
Yeah.
I don't know, Earth.
I think I was once in Dubai. This like
You been there?
Something. Yeah, there was maybe like 10 very large warehouse halls, like gigantic. Oh no, in China, in Canton First. Yeah, that was like crazy. You could walk for, not go through every stall. Yeah, so I think to get from place A to Z or to A to F, great, but it just can't go on the roads. Yeah?
But what about cities where they don't have this infrastructure already and the transportation sucks, like getting around to these places? Maybe there's a use case there.
But adjusting existing infrastructure is always a pain.
Of course.
Yeah, who's gonna throw in the cash to do that as well?
Yeah, and then really, I mean, the case that you have to make is that you're just after someone made that decision and went through all the hoops of municipal governance, etc., and then they made the decision they want to upgrade the infrastructure, you still have to demonstrate how yours is substantially better than whatever, a streetcar or all the other alternatives that you can have. Now, don't get me wrong, I really love the initiatives where cities actually get rid of cars. I don't know how much the international audience that we have actually realized this, but the Paris mayor has been getting rid of cars in Paris progressively for the last years. It's, in my opinion, such a fantastic experience to be in Paris now compared to 10 years ago. So that's great. That's bold.
I like that.
I like that. But, I mean, if you then make the pitch, hey, don't build bike lanes for more bikers, instead build lanes for glideways, oof, you have to convince.
Yep, agreed. We will have Tim in a second from Kawazu.
Blue energy.
So yeah, just quickly on Blue Energy. This is a really quick one. I don't know how deep we can go into, but it's kind of interesting because they announced a $380 million round. They build nuclear power plants. And how they do it is by building them in shipyards and then using waterways to transport the nuclear power plant to where it needs to go. And what they argue is that this can hugely reduce the amount of time, make the projects more predictable, because within shipyards, they can handle much more like heavy steel and other equipment and material that are typically required in to get to a construction site, which obviously costs and becomes very unpredictable. So this is an interesting model and way to think about it. Shipping a big nuclear power plant down a river in Africa.
Wasn't on my bingo card for 2026, no.
Yeah, just definitely. Well, not going through the Strait of Hormuz, that's for sure.
Is it is it Czech nuclear company? Like they're from Czech Republic?
Blue, and I think they're based in like Wales or Scotland or somewhere in the UK. I'm sure of it. Blue Energy.
Martin, do Poles consider the Czech like brothers?
Well, yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, oh, interesting.
I had to translate it into the Western understanding. Yeah.
Of brothers.
Okay,
Okay.
guys.
So in the East, there are brothers who bash their heads. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, yes.
I need to see where. I don't actually know. There must be. It doesn't say where exactly. I'm sure when I looked these up before, they were UK based. Anyway, we have Artem here. Should we let Artem in? Let's do it. Hey, Artem.
Hey, Artem. Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Artem.
Hey, guys.
Artem, where's the robot? Come on, we have to see the robot.
Right there.
And lifting you. Oh. You should have done it from the top of the side of a scaffold. Like.
Yeah. We have different versions of that.
Okay, cool. Well, Artem, so here's the headline. You guys recently raised it's around about a month ago, I think you announced the news of a $60 million Series A extension. So that brings total Series A to 35 million, right? Tell us about the product.
Yeah, we essentially have like lifting robots that replace cranes.
Very efficient communication.
And are they on construction sites or in warehouses? Where?
Yeah, we started with construction sites. We learned that that's not necessarily the best market for bringing robots in, and we can speak about this for a long time. We rediscovered that the right industry for our robots is a heavy industry, where effectively it's being deployed on maintenance of oil and gas refineries, chemical plants, and that's where we see a lot of uptake, and will provide a lot of value.
Are you also going after power plants? Is that a category you're serving?
Yeah, power plants is also a really good one. Maintenance, building new plants. We first started in Europe and then this expanded to North America, and that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of success right now.
So it's always funny when you have the more life experience you accumulate, every now and then you run into a funny little anecdote. So I guess that reveals a little bit as me being the grandpa in the group. But
I was gonna say,
yeah. When I worked for a large utility, at the time actually the largest utility in the world, what I had accidentally discovered as part of my job is that I want to take a poll here. So when they do the maintenance of the interior of the main room of a power plant, let's say the main room of a nuclear power plant, they need to get a scaffold in order to do the maintenance. Guys, taking a poll here. What is the cost of the scaffold per month?
What's the volume of the power plant?
Well, you have to make assumptions now.
Well, per month it is at least because it needs to be bloody checked every fucking 5 seconds probably. It's probably like 150K.
Yeah, I was gonna say 50.
50 you? Artem, do you know or guess?
I know what the labor cost. We typically don't deal with the scaffold cost. I think it depends if you're talking about the boilers, right? It's a boiler scenario.
Yeah, exactly. A boiler room, basically. Yep.
And you're asking the cost per month.
Cost per month, just for the scaffold.
Like rental, right? It's like several $100,000, I would say.
So at the time, this was 2012-ish, it was 200,000 per month. 200,000 per month. So the reason why I like that anecdote in your context is because it tells you so much about the solvency of the customers, how important it is to them to actually ship maintenance, because the underlying asset, you want to keep it running. It's like constant cash flow generating. So great customers, they have a real incentive to get the maintenance done. And then obviously, like you are saying, Artem, and then back to you, people actually walk these scaffolds, they do things, but these things are super high. That's why they cost so much. They're complex. So you have to vertically transport. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. And we, to your point, Patrick, like we know each other since 2018, I think.
Yeah.
We did, in fact, we did started with scaffolding as the first use case. And we started bringing these robots to various plants, first in Germany, then Europe, UK, and then North America. And those are all large clients who care a lot about their uptime, right? Because downtime costs them 1 hour of a downtime of a chemical plant can cost you several millions. And what we learned from them that once we started bringing these robots to the scaffold, just for the scaffolding use case, that they started actually asking us, hey, you're moving scaffolding from me vertically, can you also do the same with insulation or painting or mechanical components or catalysts or you name it, right? And that's kind of what we discovered, that the way they move material today vertically, it's really limited. You literally just have like large cranes or people walking material, or sometimes you have ropes, and that's the only alternatives they have. And that's kind of where our robot fit really well, and that's kind of the use case that we're going after right now.
Nice.
Artem, what was the issue with construction sites? Like, why did
I was going to ask
this will be valuable lessons for our listener base.
Yeah, Patrick kind of already alleviated to this a bit. The solvency of the clients and just the buying ability, it's a really big topic, right? Because what we learned
always the cheapest.
Not even that. What we learned effectively, one of our main learnings was that, to sell to ExxonMobil is not that much more difficult than selling to a construction company. We were always afraid of this, and we thought, okay, how do you sell to big oil and gas company? And after you sell to a German construction company, you actually can sell to anyone, to be honest. And that was one learning. Another learning is, and everybody talks about it, there is a big disconnect in terms of incentives. And when we're talking about construction, like commercial construction, people are, the owners of the building, they don't care how their GCs do their job. GCs don't care about how subcontractors do their job, right? They only care about money. You said it yourself, right?
I'm glad you're saying this.
Yeah.
Safety is almost never a concern. People talk about it, people don't care about it. Schedule is not a concern as well. And that's kind of just creates really little amount of levers on the rest of the chain.
Amazing insight.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, sorry, we should call this out. Artem, are you currently in Houston, or where are you?
I am in Munich right now. I'm moving in 2 weeks. So
okay, to Houston.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, energy capital of the world.
That's right.
Good luck with the move. Can you tell us about, Artem? I think I saw something in your article about physical AI. So can you tell us about how you guys are, if there is a use case for data in the product that you're that you're selling, and what that is, and what the benefit to the customer might be?
Yeah, absolutely. Our robots today, they gather data on material flow, and material flow is a really interesting indicator. It's like a KPI that doesn't require a lot of resources, but gives you a lot of output. I usually speak about, when somebody feels unwell, they go to a doctor, and the first thing that the doctor does is do a blood test. And with a blood test, you can actually understand a lot about what's happening with your body. And then based on this, you can decide, hey, I want to do an MRI right now, or I don't need to do it. So the same as a material flow, right? By basically knowing how is your material flowing, it's like kind of a blot of the construction site or of a plant. You basically can understand a lot, and then you can just zoom in onto specific areas. So that's kind of like what we do today. And this is more from the technological side of things. One of the things we learned as we started like scaling actually solutions in the industry is that this industry is really like a rustic, and there are so many inefficiencies. And the funny part is that technologically wise, there are so many solutions that will solve these inefficiencies, but the clients, they just don't trust anyone, or they are also fine with operating the way they are operating. Those are the biggest companies in the world with all the money of the world, right? Why those should change something? So one of the interesting things we learned is that like having access to these clients and having their trust really opens up a lot of doors and abilities to actually bring them more technological solutions, and just being able to be those trusted solution providers who can bring the solution to their problems. And that's effectively like what we are positioning ourselves right now. And when it comes to everything like robotics, AI, any automations, right? We're seeing so many opportunities, and actually they ask us about this. So our job is to identify what are the low-hanging fruits, what is scalable, and what kind of fits our roadmap.
Nice.
One of your you wanted to say something, Patrick?
Nope, just said nice.
One of your products, I can see it's data analytics. Why is that a product, and why is it useful for anyone? And what?
Yeah, it's relatively straightforward, right? By getting more transparency of what's happening on site, you can make better decisions. If I know that I need to move 200 tons of material within 4 weeks, and I see that in week number 3, it's only 50 tons of material that was moved, I know I have a problem, right? It's relative, like super high level, and the reality today is that a lot of this inefficiencies or like things like this are just being hidden, and people don't really know that something is going wrong, and we just help to flag it. So that's really like a basic value on the transparency. Second level is benchmarking. So we know what goods looks like. We have multiple robots deployed at multiple plants, so we can actually tell the owners how their contractors are performing, right? And this is a really they don't have this information today. It's really like gut feeling decisions, or they have to trust their contractors, and surfacing it for them actually proves to be a big value.
Amazing. So what's next for you?
We are effectively scaling within vertical material space. Clients ask us to move more material to more people. At the same time, they ask us if we can move in horizontal direction as well, right? If we can have robots that move material horizontally. They ask us if we can do manipulation on the sites, if we can have welding robots doing welding at a 200 feet tall flare. So there are a lot of excitement and opportunities, and it's our job to kind of funnel it in the right direction.
And currently, do you sell these lifts, these components, or do you rent them, or you provide service?
Yeah, we do both. We rent and we sell. We don't do a service where it's a full stack model. Can also talk about that. But we basically found that you just got to be really flexible. It was another learning of ours. If you try to strong arm the client in this industry, it's never a good idea. And you just really have to offer them what they ask for. And you got to be smart the way you offer. You got to have good margins, but then you got to be flexible.
Okay, Artem, I have one last question. How do you mentally prepare yourself for moving to the US?
Yeah, I've been traveling back and forth for the past 3.5 years. So I have more than 120 calendar days for the past 3 years every year in the US. So it's kind of I kind of already prepared, so to say. But definitely, my team was sending today the pictures from Munich downtown and how you can see the mountains on the background. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be missing that for sure. Where are you guys based?
Cool, man. Martin and I are in London, and Patrick is in Germany.
Middle of nowhere, man. Middle of nowhere.
Nice.
Good.
All right. Okay, Artem. Good luck with it. We will follow your journey in Houston,
Indeed.
and hopefully see you soon.
It's really inspiring
guys.
seeing your journey, Artem. I mean, such a cool journey for others to follow. Really, congratulations.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers. Good
Artem.
luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We have got Amar now in here.
I mean, think about it, right? So robotics in 2018, when these guys started doing it for construction and infrastructure, like that was not a category that was easy to fundraise with, etc. So, and
Yeah,
then
the product is very simple, no? Like the use case of it is very simple. Not trying to lay a brick and another brick and then do arch and all of that. It's just lifting the material on a vertical plane.
yeah, I think you're right in the manipulation sense. Yes, but I think the art always is to make the complex look simple.
That's
Probably.
very true. Yeah, it's always very complex till someone points it out, and then everyone thinks it's simple. Hey, Amar.
Hey, Amar.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Yeah, you can hear us. All right, cool. Amar, so Mesh Robot. Tell us about Mesh. $3.8 million seed round. Tell us more.
Yeah, just closed around 2 months ago. We focus on the robots in the rebar. We develop software to link CAD, BIM data to robotic motions. And yeah, looking forward for the next steps now, scaling the technology beyond Switzerland.
Mm-hmm. So you said you manipulate. How does it intersect with CAD? Did you say?
So I mean, what we've realized is that the industry has digital data available, but basically doesn't use them in the act of construction, the act of physical building. And robots are obviously around for a while, but then generating robotic motions that are meaningful, that are linked directly to this CAD data, that's basically what we focus on. And we see a lot of potential specifically in the space of rebar, where we have a lot of discrete elements that are cut and bent to shape and that need to be assembled into a 3D construct. And that's basically what we focus on, linking kind of these two worlds.
So to get the cage, let's say, cage of a slab, like I can see on your website, very done. To get that, do you need a good drawing in CAD, and then perhaps software or AI can kind of think about holistically what that is supposed to be, and then produce the cage of a slab, for example, or it needs to be a full beam model of reinforcement. How do you? Where are you here?
Yeah, so the industry is pretty much designing rebar cages digitally in many areas. So we often have clients that have a full 3D model of how a rebar cage looks like, where each bar is defined where it is in space, what diameter it is, how it is bent, and basically we can access this information directly and link it to robotic motions.
Mm-hmm. So it needs to be 3D model of a rebar. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We use 3D data, exactly. But basically, the 3D model provides you the basic information you need then to bring this into the physical realm. What our software then is doing is sequencing this. So if you have a 3D model, it doesn't have inherently a logic of which bar is placed when. So that's something our software does. And then, making sure that the robots can actually handle this, that there's no collisions. And then we need vision perception methods to handle the large tolerances that you have with rebar. It's a very imprecise material.
Sorry to keep referring to this website page, but there is this cage presenting a little slab, and so can this be assembled by robot totally, or an interaction at some point?
Yes, principally yes. What we do today is that we often work with clients that already have a factory. It's rarely greenfield, so our systems are interfacing with, for example, a bending machine that they already have, or potentially then they just are interested in a joining system where we, for example, only do rebar tying. So we often work with let's say systems that are somehow already in operation, and then we come in with our robot and automate the manual step that was done previously by humans. So it doesn't always have to be the complete cage. It can also just be, for example, machine tending from a cut and bend machine.
Patrick,
So Amar, yeah. So you sound very, very passionate about the intersection of the robotics work that you do, and then also rebar and all the other thing. I have an inkling how you got to the robotics part, but how did you get to actually discover this use case? What's the backstory here?
Yeah, thanks. So I have a background in automation engineering. A long time ago, I learned that at ABB in Switzerland, and then I was actually interested to do something else. Studied architecture in Switzerland and in London. And then during my master in London, I somehow started to understand that one can combine these two worlds, which led me back to Switzerland, joining ETH, where I was working in a group, Gramazio Color Research, they're called, pioneers in the field of robotic construction, and did my PhD there in that field, and worked over 10 years in academia doing robotic construction processes. And one of the processes I worked with was rebar. And basically from that work, we were encouraged to basically get this out of the university space, and we founded a company, Mesh.
What a fun intersection. Have you ever met a second person that actually came from automation and studied architecture?
No.
Actually, I know one person, but he's not interested in robots anymore. So he just does architecture. Yeah.
So there's two of you. Okay, got it. Interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but there's not many.
Yeah.
There's a few companies from ETH Zurich. Sorry, I don't know specifically ETH Zurich, but I know definitely Switzerland that are tackling the construction robotics space. There's an interesting scene there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's another professor, can't remember the name, but he has like a slab solutions, structural slabs in a kind of and that way. Was that
like compression only slab system?
Yes.
Probably Philip Locke.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Ripon floor system. It's a startup company, Vaulted. They focus on compression only slab system. Exactly. I mean, I think from this group that we were in, there was a large research initiative that was also partially founded by the state National Competence Center of Research in Digital Fabrication. So it became quite a big topic in the last years in Switzerland, where also a lot of let's say professors from different disciplines work together on the field of digital fabrication and robotic fabrication, and a bunch of startups also originated from that group. Gravitz, working on excavation, also from that group. Saiki is from that group, and others. Yeah.
Yes.
Very cool. Amma, how do you get this from the lab, for lack of a better term, to a paying customer's hands and them using on a construction site?
Yeah, it's a painful process. So what we did at ETH was really cool, but was really detached, I would say, to some extent from what the industry really needed. We focused very much on crazy complex geometries, and then learned from the industry that there's a proper niche application, whereas general rebar work is an unsolved problem. I would say it took us 2 years to understand, first of all, who our clients are, and it's not architects. It's actually people who touch the rebar. So large construction companies, rebar shops, prefabrication companies. And then basically adapting the system that we've developed that was not looking at, let's say, CAD models that the industry has, but at our own models. We try to teach the industry how to design, so we can then build it with robots, and then had to learn the hard way that that's not possible. We need to basically work with what's already there, which are BIM models and 3D models, and basically take these models and work directly from there, and had to rework our processes to make them, let's say, compatible with industry needs.
You said that you understood who your customers are. So am I guessing correctly that that would be car fabrication shops?
Yes, I mean we first tried to talk to structural engineers, to architects a lot, and then basically after started having more discussions with the industry in general. Also, we've been actually at many fairs where we thought, oh, actually nobody's interested in rebar there because it's yeah. So also we needed some time to find who really our clients are. Now we are really, let's say, more focused on companies that really are touching rebar, and we try them to not touch rebar anymore with the hand, but with the robot. So these are precast companies, prefab companies, rebar shops, and companies that work on large, let's say, infrastructure projects.
Last year in May, me and I went to Goldbeck to one of their factories in Hamm in Germany, and they had some automation for rebar, but for sure there wasn't an arm which was assembling rebar after welding.
There was still a lot of manual process here, actually.
Involved. This type of fabrication.
The tying of the cages was manual, I think.
Yeah. So this type of fabrication shops you would have in mind as a customer, like for example people like Goldbeck or.
Yeah, exactly. I mean there are rebar processing machines around, right? That do cut and bend. But then the act of assembly is actually still a lot of manual labor. Yeah. It's huge amounts of rebar that is assembled every year, and we focus predominantly on prefab, on precast, which is something like 20-30% of the global market, where we see, at least currently, the main application for robots, and basically try to get away human labor there from these dangerous jobs.
I want to point out something bigger, because it's important that we double underline the word that you're saying, Amar, the assembly. So when you today look into actually robotics, forget construction, just in general industrial robotics and commercial robotics, the next frontier is going to be assembly, where what we're actually seeing is that we're building so much capacity far east, but also in the west, in terms of subsystems, arms, cobots, mobile platforms, CNC machines go way back. We have all of that, but none of that is actually the assembly solution. And with all of the capacity that we're now adding, the fabrication of components is soon not going to be a bottleneck anymore anywhere, unless it's energy constrained or material constrained. But it's not going to be fabrication labor replacement type constraint. So all of a sudden, you're going to produce all of the components that you ever could have dreamed of. You know what you still need to do with them? Assemble them. That is actually one of the biggest frontiers in robotics going forward. So anyone that is solving that for either like hyper versatile, which wouldn't be my bet, or for large enough surface areas of specific categories, that's actually the most exciting frontier or one of the most exciting frontiers of robotics, in my opinion.
Mm. Nice.
I agree, and I mean construction, by definition, or largely by definition, is the act of putting parts together, and it's usually not just one material; it's usually multiple materials. Yeah, it's often about assembly in the end, right? And I fully agree.
Thanks for double underlining. Yep.
Amar, what's the tell us briefly what the plan is for the allocation of the capital of the fundraise?
Yeah, so we have invested most of our efforts in R&D and development. Now it's about basically bring the technology beyond Switzerland. So we have first clients in Switzerland that have our robots in use for infrastructure projects like the new Gotthard tunnel, also in the rebar shops for machine tending. But it's really about going now beyond Switzerland. We have now investors from Japan. So that will be on our agenda for this year to bring the technology to Japan. We have a cooperation with a robotics company that has also invested in our company that is to also do international projects with them. But the goal is really to focus on sales and building up really let's say the commercial pipeline. Yeah. Investing in the team. You see, we have the robots already. It's about investing in the team.
Yeah.
Do you give your robots names individually and treat them like team members too and colleagues?
just numbers. I don't know. I mean, I
Too many
never
of
got
them.
into the habit of calling them human names. I don't know.
Yeah, this is
Maybe we
Claude.
should. Actually, we have one client who has they have this board of their employees, and the first robot they actually put on the board of employees and gave it a name, and they're moving it around. So they see it as a human friend.
Love
which,
it.
it's not our
The
idea.
great-
What's their idea?
The great thing about this employee, he never complains. He never asks for a pay rise.
Doesn't
Never say-
unionize.
Almost
Yeah.
never. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Amar. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with the journey.
Thank you,
So-
Amar.
Ciao.
Hi guys.
Bye-bye.
Nice. That was fun. We should have done another robotics mega episode like we did last year when we done it with Bedrock and Dusty and everyone. That was awesome.
I mean, time to do it again.
Yes, 100%. The time is.
And then,
I think
you can actually ask any of them on the spot, hey, who of you gives me one of your units? I'm going to throw it off a skyscraper.
Yes. And then I have to hold them to it. They've said it live on air, on the record. There's a officially, well, in UK law anyway, there's a contract in place, so I'm protected. Nice work. Great plan. We shall do it. Okay, guys. Actually, we should get one of the excavator companies because that would really make a bang if we could
Holy
throw an
moly.
excavator off the side of the company.
Excavator from the skyscraper. Mini excavator then.
Good luck finding the right venue.
All right, guys. Enjoy your evening. Thank you all.
Good
and
stuff.
See you soon.